Hello there, welcome to my channel. Today we're starting with something called as the sternal angle, or the introduction to thoracic cavity, and then I'll go towards the angle of Louis. A 5-mark question, very important, please concentrate. This is the diagram of the chest, the chest part of it, the ribs which covers this thing. Till today we've been studying about the upper limb and lower limb. Let's now just go for the thorax. This is the thoracic cavity having the sternum, you can identify here, and this is the ribs, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the 11 and 12 ribs. Vertebrae are hiding behind it, and they can make it out. This is the manubrium of the sternum, this is the body, and it's heart process down here. So what happens is, what is a particular structure in the thoracic cavity? Why we have this particular part? Remember, God has given protection to the brain by a skull, spinal cord, by the vertebrae, the vertebral foramen, which allows them to pack and go knee down. So even heart and lungs are very important, right? So lungs, you can see this particular shape, right? These guys are designed to protect the lungs, and this particular bone, a strong bone present in the front, which is actually 3 parts, is protecting the heart by something here behind. Behind immediately you have here the heart. So it's a pericardial ligament which provides protection to it. Let's go down. Thoracic cavity, and we have something called as an angle of Louis. What is an angle of Louis? The definition. The angle of Louis is a junction between the manubrium and the sternal body. This is the manubrium and the sternum. You can see one line going here. I have shown the sternum this side. Now you can observe this particular part in a lateral view. But I'm showing from this here. You can see the clavicular notch for the sternum here. Also you can see the notch for the first rib and the manubrium. Also you can see the second rib notch, third, fourth, 5, goes on till 7 here. Why, I'll tell you later on. The angle which passes between the manubrium as well as the sternal body is called as the angle of Louis. Angle of Louis is named after the French doctor who described this, even the head cutting procedure in the Dark Ages, guillotine. That is later, and it's too boring for you. It's important. Why do we study the sternal angle? What is it? It's actually a very important angle. If I show you like this in the thorax region, okay, this is what it is. It appears something like this one, and it has in 163. It's a synovial joint, mind you. It's a synovial joint, very little movement, and exactly about 163 degrees of an angulation it's contained. Maybe when your heart is beating too much, just light the vein. When your heart beats too much, this has little bit movement. And why we are studying sternal angle is because of its contents. The contents of sternal angle, we'll go to that immediately. It's something called as rat plant. Okay, rat plant. Remember this contents. In exam for 5 marks, you need to diagram and this rat plant. I'll just come back to it in 2 minutes. Let me just go now. So this is the typical thoracic cavity having ribs, right? The ribs are classified into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This particular are called as a true ribs because they are attached from the vertebrae to the sternum. And false are, you can observe here, the 8, 9, 10. These 3 idiots are called as the false because they are not attached. They are just attached to the cartilage is present here. They're not even thing. And the 11th and 12th are floating ribs. They are in the backside. They are not completely. God had to protect it from the backside, so he just gave 2 ribs here, 11th and 12th, which is the floating ribs here. The ribs can also be classified in another type. In the textbooks which have given to you typical and atypical. Typical starts from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 3 to 9, 3 plus 6 is 9, right? So 3 to 9 will be your typical ribs, which have typical features of a rib, and every clearly we can make out when we study the osteology about it. But the 1, 2, 10 to 12 are atypical. They're completely different from each other. They have complete atypical features. We can't even make it out what they are. So this is the angle of Louis introduction and the ribs. Okay, now can you see some lines I've just drawn here? This is sternal angle right here, and behind this person would have had the scapula present in this person. If the scapula, this is where the scapula was supposed to be, and we have something here called mid-scapular line which passes straight towards here, and next to that where the clavicle bone articulating with the sternum to form the sternoclavicular joint. This line is called as a mid-clavicular line, and we have here something called where the person's arm would have been rest. This axillary part, mid-axillary line. 3 lines pass here. Please remember the mid-scapular line, mid-clavicular line, and mid-axillary line. Very important later on when we are studying mediastinum. I hope I'm not fast. This is how it is, simple. Let's now go for studying about the sternal Louis angle, the rat plant I want to talk to you about. Okay, what is the rat plant? The first thing about the rat we get is the ribs, the second rib to be precise. This is the second rib which comes from here and articulates in the backside. And here the ribs present a very important feature. This rib shows something immediately below that, something called as the intercostal space. The second intercostal space where we can easily articulate, we can auscultate the ventricles here. Okay, the second intercostal space will just go for us hearing the best bit for auscultating the pulmonary valve. At the same time, in the other side, we have the on the right side, the aortic valve can be best palpated here. If you go the same way, the ribs contain here second, third, and fourth. 3, 4, and 5 intercostal space are the best place for auscultating the AV valves. And fifth one, very intercostal space for the mitral valve in the mid-clavicular line. And left fifth intercostal space in lower part for the tricuspid valve. So the next part of the rat plant will be the aortic arch. I have a separate video for the aortic arch. It's a very important arch which just comes out here and gives attachment. So aortic arch is the second part of it, which just goes off here, which is the second content of the sternal angle. Then we have got the tracheal bifurcations. And this one is carina. What we have here, this part, this is seen behind our thoracic cavities, the sternal angle, which passes to it, and that is what we see. The third content of the RAT is this one, the tracheal bifurcation. And then we have again the pulmonary trunk immediately seen there, pulmonary trunk carrying the deoxygenated blood here, and it's just pass off in this region. We can see it here. And then one more surprising thing in this region to observe is something called as ligamentum arteriosum. Ligamentum arteriosum, okay, it's just a part of the ductus arteriosus of the embryonic period when there was fetal, fetal circulation, fetal what happened, and this now remains as a connective tissue called as ligamentum arteriosum. So rat plants, ribs second, aortic arch, tracheal bifurcation, pulmonary trunk, ligamentum arteriosum, azygous vein. Azygous vein is one of the most important veins for the ribs. It just brings up all the intercostal veins, collected and goes back here. So we contain in this region, we see the azygous vein, the nerves. The next part of the nerves, the plant's end part is the nerves, which is nothing but the vagus nerve and the cardiopulmonary plexus and the sympathetic nerve supply of this region we observe here. And the last one, the lymphatic valve, called as the thoracic duct, which we observe in this region. One vital thing I need to tell to you, all this, the space can you observe here, there's a line crossing here from this region. This is called in the back side. If I show you from this side, you can observe this is the front of the sternal angle. From the sternal angle, a line goes backwards between the T4 and T5. So from the sternal angle, a line goes between T4 and T5. This is called as a transthoracic plane. All the structures, all of the rat plant are located in the transthoracic plane. To remember this. I cannot make the video very boring and long. This is how simple meant to understand about the sternal angle, angle of Louie, rat plant. Remember about transthoracic plane. Remember about intercostal space and the favorite places for articulation, for auscultation of the heart. Thank you. Bye-bye.